Hey, my name is Brian Curtis, and I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems. And today I have Carrie Killeen with me, who is one of my friends from one of the coaching groups I was in. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Pretty good. So
Cool.
I guess we could just get started with maybe how you got into coaching and why you got into coaching. That'd be easy.
Okay, cool. Well, I've always been a coach, and whatever I was passionate about, I always found a way to turn it around and help other people with. First, it started off with being sports, really into gymnastics, and then I realized I could make money teaching people the things that I loved, and then was really passionate about sports and education and kids, so I became a teacher. But really, what got me on the trajectory of being um, a dream life coach is my own misery, my own my own where I was just completely stuck in my head, completely like living really depressed, living a very unhappy, unfulfilled life. And I didn't pray at the time, but I something shifted in me, something really beautiful. And it was almost like an end of reality, but a beginning of my soul-led pathway. So how it unfolded is that I started to meet people, and I started to break out of the shell of the woman that I was, and I started to really discover that I wanted to be global. Like I had a really big vision and really big goals, and I needed a coach to help me untangle from my insecurities. I needed a coach to help me through my divorce, and I realized that I realized how supported I could be, because for most of my life I really felt like I was like the odd person out. It was kind of like the black sheep of the family, the one that didn't fit into the mold, the one that was kind of like people like rolled their eyes at of like, what are you doing? But I also had I also knew that I was a natural born leader, and I liked to pursue things that other people were just like, whoa, like you're running marathons, or like you want to do triathlons. And I liked to excel in things that required effort. Well, there's nothing more incredible than pursuing a life of soul purpose and expansion and money and love and all of those things. And I became a coach because I realized that if I existed, that there must be other people like me out there that were experiencing the same things that I was experiencing. And lo and behold, I started to realize that I was right about a lot of things after living a life where people told me I was wrong or bad for having the views that I had. So it all worked out, and I love what I do. It feels easy, it feels effortless, and it's really awesome.
I think we should compare astrology charts. I would be interested to see what your chart looks like compared to mine, because it sound every time you tell a story, and this has happened to me, it sounds a lot like, the kind of the same things that I went through at certain times. You
Mm,
ever meet people that seems like their life path was kind of following a lot of the things that you were going through. I was unhappy
absolutely.
with my life. There
Mhm.
was a lot of reasons that certain things were happening, and then all of a sudden, I just was like, okay, I'm just going to go out and do what I want to do, and then just see where
Mhm.
where the ball lands. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
I
all of
think
us, go ahead.
there's a lot of soul brother, sister, kind of, my mother-in-law calls them like kindred souls. And I have that experience with my husband now, and it's kind of like, oh my God, like we could have hung out as kids and just been like the best friends
Mm.
ever, because we relate to one another on such a basic level. Um,
And probably the
and
world around you too, right? I mean, you're
yeah,
seeing the world around you the same way.
and we see, and this is kind of how the world is waking up, and soul family members are finding one another through experiences that they're sharing publicly, through podcasts, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, yeah, like Brian gets me, or Carrie gets me, or, we're understanding that, like, hey, we can collaborate, we can unify, we can live a life that's authentic to who we are. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we go to the same school or anything like that. It just means that a lot of us are having parallel lives. And when we find that we're not alone, I think that is just it's such an amazing, like, refreshing knowing.
Yeah, what's so amazing is when a lot of people kind of meet at the same time that all had the same experience. It's, you realize that there's nothing that's coincidental, right? It all just,
Mhm.
the more you learn about each other and the more we spend time with each other, there's really no such thing as coincidences.
Yeah.
It's all to help each other grow in the right way at the right time. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, let me see. I had a question that I had just dropped out of my mind. How about, oh yeah, we were going to talk about male and female. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've kind of started this circuit breaker series on LinkedIn for a little while, and I
Mhm.
haven't finished it yet because I didn't feel like I should finish it yet, and I realized why I wasn't finishing it. There was a lot of parts, and I'm coming to realizations, of parts that I'm going to add to it. But I already
Mhm.
did one on yin and yang, where
Mhm.
you know everything in this world is energy and information, and the male part is kind of the information and the female part is the energy, and you can't have one without the other. So all of us have that, and we're all trying to equalize that in our own biofield and energy
Mhm.
system to make
Mhm.
sure that we're functioning correctly, because if you steer too far to one side, then you're just kind of you're not balanced, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were speaking, I was feeling into um, the harmony that can be achieved through man and woman, where in a lot of situations, our upbringing and our legacies as men and women who find each other and fall in love and have babies and build a life together. From my own personal experience, I call it like the experiment of my first marriage, which was like, hey, there's the college graduate student who's coaching football, and here I am, the college graduate student who's coaching field hockey, and like, wow, you guys have so much in common, and kind of coming together in that sense and getting married. I kind of call that, that was kind of like the catalyst relationship that actually didn't work because our vibrational fields were not a match. And as women who are experiencing expansion and soul alignment and who are awakening generally will do that first. Generally, I'm speaking generally speaking, and this has been my experience of kind of this model where then the woman is just like, okay, well, this was my marriage, X, Y, and Z happened. My husband didn't grow with me, and I made this choice to evolve and love myself and heal my wounds. And okay, this is what I want. And in my experience, I call like the preparation phase of being in an evolutionary relationship where there is equal balance of male female energy, but also my husband and I are a balance of male and female energy, meaning he also has divine feminine balance energy. So in this case, we're looking at energy from masculine and feminine energy, life force energy that brings you into a balanced state of being. It actually brings you into a whole state of being as a divine masculine, and then feminine and masculine energy being in balance and whole in the divine feminine. And bringing these two energies together creates literally an energetic system that is, I experience as being a chalice for abundance, where you are constantly creating new life, and not through like conception or anything like that, but just new opportunities, new life, new experience that is abundant. And you are also like eradicating the things that are interfering with love and connection. So that's how I experience it. You know, the yin and the yang, the alpha, the omega, the you know, divine masculine, divine feminine. It's all, to me, it's all kind of like synergistic to what it boils down to is, are you equally committed to, number one, having love be the primary focus of your relationship? And are you committed to growing yourself and being honest and being and owning, you know, your challenges and owning yourself so that you can become the best person that you can be for yourself and for the other person? And if that answer is yes, right? And the other thing is, if your soul is a yes, meaning if your soul is lit up and turned on, and like you feel your, you know, your kundalini energy, the person who you're with raises your vibration, you feel like the mutual support, and this is where the energetic system comes in. You literally feel the energy of them, and you're like, okay, it's a match. And the way that I experienced that was literally doing, like, literally becoming the code of love. And I knew that this was my calling when I realized that love was a lie. And like all the things, like even when my parents told me they loved me, I was like, I don't feel that. I know you love me,
Mm-hmm.
but it felt like, you know, after like a scolding, well, you know, I love you. And, you know, and, you know, growing up feeling that love was void and then experiencing it in my own life, I was like, wait a minute, there's got to be something more. So
Because you were just kind of repeating patterns from when you were
yeah,
younger.
like I'm like, oh my God, I'm becoming my mom, and here my ex-husband is my dad, and like, whoa, not happening for me. So I got super committed, and I just did I did the extraordinary, and I just went on this soul journey with, you know, the woman who has coached us mutually. And I discovered that, and I was the love code of the new earth. And all this information started downloading into me, and of course, all of these experiences of like, you know, well, this isn't love and this isn't love. And all this, like, it was like the school of hard knocks when it came to love. And, you know, a lot of just really radical things where it like, you know, shook me. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm aligning everything into love, and I'm doing it for a man I don't know yet. And this is kind of like, I don't know who he is. I don't know who this man is, but I know he exists. And then I started getting called to go to all these different places and random places to do energy activations. And I get called up into a lake in New Hampshire on a random winter day all by myself, and I'm doing all this energy work. And I find out, you know, a year or two later that I was doing that work for my now husband, and that we had met each other before in many lifetimes, but in this lifetime, and we had spent time together at this lake, but I had completely selectively forgotten about him. Like, he was absolutely not on my radar because the experience was such a clandestine, dreamlike experience that I kind of never thought it would happen again. And this is kind of like my story of how I held this. I believe that we all hold the memory of our twin flame, or the love of our life, or our soulmate. You know, for me, it's my divine match.
Whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Yeah, whatever we call it. You know, now I just call it, you know, my husband. But I believe that I held that in my heart for many, many lifetimes. And this is the lifetime that we were mature enough in ourselves and in our souls to be able to be responsible for one another and loving one another unconditionally. And yeah, like I remember the day that I got the message from him about how he came across my Facebook profile. He wasn't looking. He was in a challenge. He was losing his wife, but he was also in a loveless marriage. And I read his words, and my heart was like, it's you. And I was shocked. But really, it was how he showed up for me in a way that I never expected. But when he showed up with his heart all like vulnerable, fully exposed. And he saw me the way that nobody else has ever seen me, including my parents. And I remember when he came to visit after his wife passed, after he had come to a resolve with that. And we were sitting out on the porch with my parents, and he was talking to my dad about me and how he had always I taught him love. He goes, your daughter activated something inside of my heart that I knew was love. And I always remembered it, and I always felt it. And he paused, and he looked at my face, and he said, see this crinkle right here? And right here, he goes, that's a diamond, which is the essence of who I am as a feminine, the diamond legacy of women. And when he said that, I was like, it cannot be true. It cannot be real. That this is actually like,
Happening to you.
I'm literally living this. Everything that I thought that I ever wanted a man to say to me is just like in front of my parents, who are like, what? Like, what did you say? Like, just so odd. But that's the essence of our love. And for me, because I guess I am a diamond, like the quality of things and the type of life that I've chosen has been to magnetize that type of experience. And it has become my standard, if you will. But I have to say that I was a woman who also was abused. I was a woman who was a doormat. I was a woman who, had a really, really, really awful marriage. And I allowed to be treated like dirt for many, many years until I didn't allow it. So now, because of that, I grew up and I was like, no, wait a minute, it's going to be like this.
Right.
I did my spiritual work, and I still do. I don't think it won't be ever over.
Yeah, you're always growing. That's one
Yeah,
thing
always growing.
that all the spiritual leaders will readily admit. It's like you never really stop growing,
Mm-hmm.
Your awareness is always expanding, and you're coming to greater realizations of who you are all the time, that
Yeah.
never stops.
And as you grow too, because this happens in marriages as well, every time I grow spiritually, it creates some sort of, I would say a conflict in my life that helps to propel an up level of
Both of
my husband and I. Yeah. And I've come to embrace these moments, because I know that what's happening is, the ego, at the places where we're not in harmony with ourselves, we're just regulating. And when we kind of regulate ourselves, we're finding balance between us. And then because we are so articulate and we've really developed a great way to communicate, we're able to communicate our needs, and by speaking and listening to one another, and really like understanding the other person. So it's been really, it's been such a blessing. And, you know, I know that these relationships are happening. So as people are opening up their hearts and becoming more vulnerable and just saying like, these are the things that I'm desiring in a relationship, and waiting, and, you know, I didn't date. I learned to love myself and awaken myself. And I learned how, I guess this is the biggest thing too, is like, I had experiences with a relationship with a man in a spiritual community, actually a community that Karina had before New Code. And I was taught how not to treat a man very, very, very quickly. A divine man, I was taught that these things specifically don't work. And it was like a crash course in how not to love a man. But my heart instantaneously learned how to treat a divine man, how to treat and welcome in through a softening of my heart, through a deep understanding, and by really letting him be him and all of him, and experience life through his own eyes and how he views love.
Yeah,
So
cool.
yeah.
I know you see, and you've probably seen it before, the longer couples are together, and you know, I've seen couples that have been together for 40, 50 years. And as soon as they get to like the 35 to 40, 45-year mark, they almost stop talking because they know each other. You know each other so well.
Yeah,
You don't
gosh,
have to talk to each other anymore. It's just your emotions are, you know what the other person's thinking anyway. And, you don't really see what they say to each other. They do it in private. They almost don't talk to each other in public anymore because they just know each other, right?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I see like my parents, and they bicker all the time, and it's just the same fights that they've been having year after year. And I see like, I see people in my family, and I have just chosen not to. I don't want to be married for 40 years and not being like co-creating something magical with Chris. And he, he kind of agrees. I think we over communicate, but it's just because that's what feels organic to us. I just feel like some people, especially, older couples, and this just must be my point of view, is like, they're kind of stale. I'm curious. I'm like,
well, they might not be living their best life too. They might have
I'm kind of thinking, and I'm like, what's their sex life like? Do they
right.
in the same bedroom? How has he had an affair? Has she had an affair? Like, there's so many, like, I've just seen so many like dirty little secrets of couples who
stay together anyway,
you
just
kind
because
of
they
think,
don't want to,
you kind of think like, okay, well, what's going on behind the scenes? And for me, I kind of always wanted to have this reality TV show where I'm like, come behind the scenes of my life and see what is really going on, because it's a constant checking in with yourself, and like, okay, where am I today, and where's Chris today, and like, are we in sync or no? Like, he's at work and I've got this and that. So it's just a constant like shifting. But the thing that I think about what is happening right now that is really awesome is that so many people who hold new earth codes of prosperity or unity consciousness, and are coming into partnership because there is something new. And this, like, there's something new that hasn't been experienced on the planet yet for couples that we're getting ready for. And I had this conversation with Chris the other night, and I said, we're building our dreams, and we have big visions, and we see them in our dreams, and they're parallel. And I said, but until our foundation is solid, we're here to make sure that we are solid in each other and solid in our relationship and our marriage before we build. And I think that's really important, to have the foundational tools to build like a successful marriage, which is truly being solid within yourself, and then also just being willing and open, like open-hearted.
Trusting to be vulnerable, right, at all times.
Yeah, like trusting and to be honest, like I wasn't like this, you know, I wasn't vulnerable, and I'm working on that. Like it's like going into, I don't know, I'm gonna claim it right now, like that's what I get to be, is more vulnerable, because my husband comes to me and he just is so vulnerable, and I have learned so much from him about being in touch with his truest feelings and speaking them honestly and speaking them clearly, to the point where that's really, you know, it's really opened me up to that.
I think that's kind of this everyone's journey, right? Is you
Mhm.
finally, as soon as you open yourself up to the world, then the world will welcome you. It's when you close yourself off from the world that, you know, that you're not, you know, you're isolated. You're living your own hell if you're not opening
Yeah,
yourself up to the world around you, because everyone will open their
absolutely.
arms to you, but you just have to open up first. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think there's there's a lot that we can do when it comes to love. Um, and you know, if it's not like the relationship piece, I mean, if you're a parent, think about where you can open up your heart to more love just by understanding deeper and being more connected to who you are, and you know, kind of running through the energetic checklist of like, okay, well, am I reacting, you know, kind of like my parents would have reacted to me as a child, or am I filtering everything through consciousness, and am I able to create more of a loving connection? And when I say loving, it's not love that comes from brain, because love doesn't get created in the brain. It's truly the feeling, the essence, the energetic substance of love that we all have the possibility and the capability as humans to turn on and tap into. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar childhood, you know, and it was the reason why I didn't date when I was younger, is because I didn't see any point, you know, because I was living the example of my parents who just fought daily, on and on, all the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
I'd go to schools like, why are these people dating? What's the point of that? That doesn't look, my experience of that is not fun. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to go home and argue with somebody, you know. It's so, you know, we kind of we were in the same house, but we didn't live together, you know. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, you want a loving atmosphere where everybody feels easy to open to, and you know, it's easy to talk to everyone. There should never be barriers, and you know, those barriers are all internal. So you know, you start
Mhm.
attracting, as you know, you'll start attracting people that are more open if you want to be open.
Yeah.
So um,
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately the lesson here, is just understand that you're attracting the kind of relationships that you're in with yourself, right?
Mhm.
Whatever relationship you have with yourself is who you're going to attract. So
Yeah, and it's really a time right now where you want to be developing that loving relationship with yourself through forgiving yourself and being compassionate and being, you know, open and aware to how you're interacting with your environment. And you know, we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of work to get through, because the social programming has been pretty fierce in terms of like remembering who you are.
yeah,
And
it's you know, the public is trying to separate everybody. You know, it's just, I
yeah.
just ran across this article this morning, and I was just like, really? I
Mhm.
think it was something that popped up on my Twitter feed. It's like, why nobody should be using the thumbs up emoji in 2022. Gen Zers say they feel attacked whenever they see a or passive aggressive thumbs up emoji. I've been using
Oh,
thumbs up
as
emojis
opposed
on
to like
LinkedIn.
the heart.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like
Well,
society's trying to tell people to react to everything, right?
I think, yeah, I mean, we're in the age of Aquarius, which is like everybody's gets to say what they feel, and like everybody everybody speaks, like everybody has a voice around something. And I think it's important to embrace that, as well as just know where you lie, and just keep on your pathway and find people who are on your pathway, and just like be aware of everything that's going on, but also just most importantly, and I heard this so strongly last night, is double down on your dreams. Double down on the things that you love. They're going to multiply, meaning it is really time to focus on love and family and creating what you came here to create, and finding those people who are going to be collaborators, co-creators, supporters, or, you know, supported by you, because all of that is really necessary for, you know, what we're going through economically and globally, as, you know, in humanity.
It's all connected. Yeah. Socially, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about that. It feels like, and I've always had this feeling that we're all just a multi-membered body. It doesn't matter how great or minimalistic you think your gift is, you are perfectly placed wherever you're at to be, you know, the perfect supporter for whatever system you're in. And I think more and more people are going to start coming together to create whatever we need to create. Yeah, I just kind of started that process this week. And then, you know, if you have your downtimes, it seems like the universe is always brings someone in to kind of give you the perfect amount of information or support, you know, right at the right time. And it always happens. It happened to me on Monday, because I actually hadn't been, you know, helping people for a while, just been doing a little things, you know, here and there on LinkedIn, just kind of supporting people every once in a while in their posts. But you get to where if you're too isolated, then, you know, you feel just kind of stagnant. And a buddy came over on Monday that needed his trailer wired. And, you know, I don't think he realized, I'll tell him later, and I haven't told him this yet. It's like, just me helping you do something on Monday was more beneficial for me than it was for you. I guarantee you. Just having the opportunity to do something for somebody, you know, if you've gone a long stretch without working together with somebody to help build something, or, you know, I'm
awesome.
all about group accomplishment.
Yeah, it's generosity, is being in service, and that's where the heart comes in. Yeah, it's a multiplier, multiply it.
Yeah.
With the gratitude.
So I won't keep you too much longer. I asked you for a story, and then I'll tell you my story.
Okay.
So give me just a good story. It doesn't have to be your best story.
Okay. It would be, let me try to think what would be applicable, like to love, or when I was a kid. I mean,
This one's a parent story for me, so whatever you want to.
I guess I'll tell you the first time I tried to ride a motorcycle. That's kind of what popped in my face. I used to hang out with like the neighborhood crew, and we would be out from like, you know, after breakfast until right before dinner, and then, you know, dinner time, and then right back out in the neighborhood. And we used to have this cornfield and this gravel pit, and we used to ride our bikes and make jumps and all of that. And one of my friends got like this motor, like a little dirt bike, like a little one. And I was like, oh my God, I want to ride it. I've always wanted to ride a dirt bike. And I got on it, and like gas and I think brake at the same time. And like, I got like just thrown into like down this ditch. And like, that was like,
You got thrown off the bike completely.
Yeah, like just, and I was so pissed, because I was like, I've just always imagined myself like being on this, like knowing what to do, and dirt. It was like, it was a blow to my ego, because here I am, I'm with, I think there was like a couple girls, but they weren't going to get on it. And then all these boys, and my friend Adam came to make sure that I was okay, but everybody else was laughing at me, and I was like so dejected. I was like, you know, and this kind of gives you a little idea of like what my husband has to deal with. I'm kind of like, what do you mean? Like, I'm is equal to you and I can do this. But I never, never got back on another motorcycle. I was like,
Never
you know
did.
what? That just kind of was like, nope, no more.
My
So,
cousin Susan's got a pretty good motorcycle story.
oh, hold on.
Oh, dog.
Okay,
I'll clip that part out.
thanks. Sorry.
So my story is, I don't know what the point of this story is. I know there must be like a learning lesson. Well, we'll call it divine intervention, right? So when we were kids, we used to go camping all the time with my parents' friends. We had a family that we'd go to camping with every summer. The Lemons, Bob and Stephanie Lemon, and Brad and Joel Lemon, and us two kids before my parents had the third boy. My younger brother is 10 years younger than us. He's actually a vasectomy baby, if you can believe that. But anyway, we'd all go into the same place up in the mountains, and we came back, and all of us kids, when we came back, we had ticks on us all over the place. And I still remember where these were. I had a tick on the side of my neck, and I had a tick on my head. And back then I had hair, right? And so I can't remember if mom shaved that part of my head where the tick was at or not, but she had me in the tub, and she had heard that if you take kerosene and pour it around the tick, that the tick would back out because it would suffocate the tick. Well, she had doused my head in kerosene and it didn't work. She had also heard that if you light matches and take a lit match head, you can touch it to the back of the tick and the tick will back out. So she literally has got matches in her hand and is getting ready to light a match. And she somehow, for whatever reason, Stephanie called Carolyn on the phone, my mom.
That's my name.
And I was talking to mom because her kids had ticks on them. And mom's like, yeah, Brian's got ticks on him. I'm getting ready to take the ticks out of him. And she's like, well, how are you doing it? And mom, after mom told her what she was getting ready to do, Carolyn, you're going to kill that boy. And I remember hearing Stephanie through the phone. I'm just sitting in the tub. I think I was probably 6 or 7 years old or something.
Wow.
But it's one of those memories you'll never forget, you know, because then you're able to think back. It's like, geez, how did I live through that? You know, I mean,
Wow.
and
Same.
the odds are kerosene, you know, its ignition temperature is not that low. So I mean, more than likely it probably wouldn't have lit up. But I mean, if it did,
Good thing you didn't find out.
yeah.
Oh,
So
that's good.
thanks for joining me, Carrie.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay, bye.